Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to those in the eastern states, and welcome to the webinar on how to control nerves and begin speaking confidently. My name's Peter Dew, and I'm a public speaking trainer and coach, and I come from a background of absolute fear of public speaking, and that's because I have had to deal with a stutter all of my life. And as I've got older and I've done more practice and I've pushed and pushed and pushed, I've gradually become confident enough to speak, and I now stutter less, and I do public speaking for my training to help other people overcome their fear, to be more confident, to control nerves. So welcome. Some new people that I haven't seen before. So some tips on participating in webinars with me. Please ask questions as we go. Not only ask questions that you type in the dialog box, but type comments. Stuff that relates to you, things that haven't worked for you, things that have worked for you, and I'll be able to read them out. I will stop every now and then to say, are there any questions? But please don't wait for me to say, are there any questions? Take notes as you go. And as I mentioned earlier on, for those early birds, I do record this webinar, so I can make the recording available to you should your note-taking not be as comprehensive as you would like. So feel free to send me an email and say, Peter, can I have a copy of the recording? So participate by questions and comments, but also apply or think, how could you use this information in your next presentation? Or in your case, Kathy, which of these tools can I use before my next singing performance? Or maybe you've got a previous presentation fresh in your mind where you're really nervous. Which of these tools or tips or ideas that I share with you today may have helped you in that previous presentation? Yep, so it's about the application. If I just give you the information today and you walk away and say, wow, that was nice, and you don't do anything different, you don't apply the knowledge, then it's really a warm, fuzzy feeling, but nothing's changed. So it's really about how you think and how you apply. You probably know that public speaking is mankind's #1 fear. Dying is #2, snakes and spiders is #3 and #4. Certainly in Australia, snakes and spiders are a big fear. So something like handing the microphone and saying, Peter, would you like to comment? Peter, what do you think about those options or that option? This alone can put the fear into many people. So we need to acknowledge that fear is one of those everyday pervasive things around public speaking. When you get on your feet in front of 50 to 100 people, people get nervous to speak. So we need to understand that not only are you nervous, but so are most other people. I do keynote speaking at conferences. I do workshops. I do big workshops with 30, 40, 50 people, and I get nervous before and during every presentation. So I want you to understand that the fear of public speaking is mankind's #1 fear. So yeah, it's out there in all cultures. So what I want to cover today in the webinar, this 1-hour webinar, understand the role of nerves, understand your reality and the distortion or the false thinking that you have around your presentation style. I want you to learn to reframe nerves or reframe anxiety, look at it in a different way. I want you to understand that you need to do more public speaking. This is one of the keys to become more confident, and that's not even rocket science. It's the repetition, it's the doing of things, it's the training, it's the warming up before you go to the gym. If you want to lose weight, you don't just do it once in a blue moon. Same with public speaking. And I want to encourage you to take some risks or expand your comfort zone. It means putting your hand up and getting uncomfortable in the spoken world. Yep, so that's the agenda for today. So let's start. The role of nerves. I like this quote from Mark Twain. There are only two types of speakers in the world, those that are nervous and those that are liars. So Mark Twain, the great author and also speaker, had this view that everyone has nerves when they speak. And there's another quote, all the great speakers were bad speakers once. So those people you admire and think they come across without nerves, the reality is they probably started from a position where you are at the moment. And that's good news because it means public speaking is a skill that we learn. Controlling our nerves and being more confident as we speak is a skill that we learn. It's not a natural trait that you're born with or born without, such as brown eyes or blue eyes. And today is one of those steps in moving you forward, in helping you develop the skills to learn to be more confident and less nervous as you speak. And at the end of the program, I'm going to also reveal my mentoring program, which will run for 12 months. And as you deal with nerves and try to become more confident, one of the things you don't need to do is do it by yourself. Every journey, it's great to have a coach or a mentor, and that can help you fast track. So, Mark Twain says nerves are normal. Two kinds of speakers, those that are nervous and those that are liars. So, Sally Pearson will be this year in Brazil, will be defending her Olympic championship, 110-meter women's hurdles. She was interviewed in 2012 in London and asked if she was nervous before the race. And she said, yeah, of course I'm nervous. I'm nervous because it's the Olympic Games, but I'm glad I've got nerves today. If I don't have nerves, then I'm not ready. I'm not ready to race. And I think that's the same with public speaking. If you're not nervous before getting on stage, if you're not nervous before your presentation, you will probably come across as a little bit blasé, a little bit flat. You may come across as a little bit disengaged with the audience. So with the athlete, they work on getting this right level of nervousness. If an athlete is too calm, then when the starter's gun goes, they will be left in the starting blocks or on the starting blocks at the swimming pool. If you're too nervous, then you will dive in or start before the gun's gone off and be disqualified. So they talk about a healthy level of nerves. And any of you with any psychology understanding, psychology training, will know that fight or flight situation. So our nervous energy is what puts us into our peak performance mode. So Sally Pearson knows that it's going to be nervous. She wants to be nervous, but she doesn't want to be so nervous that she kind of freezes. So besides the fight or flight, which is that peak performance, there's the freeze. And that's when your anxiety or your nerves are really up and you kind of freeze. So we want to be able to control your nerves so that you don't freeze, but you still are nervous and have that healthy level of nervous anxiety. So if Sally Pearson, if athletes are allowed to get nervous before a performance, surely we're allowed to get nervous before we do public speaking. Ringo Starr. There may be some young people on the webinar. Ringo Starr is one of the Beatles. Ringo Starr, after 40 years of performing, still often vomits before he goes on stage and plays the drums. And his nickname is Pukey in the Sky with Diamonds. So he's about to play. He's got a 2-hour gig. He may not be the world's best drummer, but he is the drummer for the Beatles and he is a very good drummer. And he gets anxious, he gets stage fright, runs to the bathroom, vomits, goes on stage and then plays. Does that make his first 5 or 10 minutes or his performance bad? The fact that he's been so nervous, so anxious? No. What it means is that he's still performing with the nerves, and after 40 years, he knows that this is his physiological reaction to the performance, to the public speaking, to the singing, but it doesn't stop him from doing a good job. So it takes him about 10 to 15 minutes to start to feel comfortable. So that might be 2 or 3 songs into a 2-hour concert. Then he starts to relax and feel comfortable. Do people review and say his first 3 songs were rubbish and then he got better? No, his first 3 songs are sharp, as is the whole concert. So the nerves, the vomiting, the stage fright doesn't stop you or Ringo Starr or Sally Pearson from getting into your peak performance mode. So I guess one of the key takeaways from today is that your nerves will probably never go away. And it's not eliminating nerves to do public speaking or to sing or to perform. It's rather learning to accept and live with them and maybe control them just a little bit. So welcome, a few people who've just joined us. We are underway. So Ringo Starr gets nervous, Sally Pearson gets nervous, Peter Dew gets nervous before speaking. Mark Twain says 2 kinds of speakers in the world, nervous and liars. So what if I told you maybe you will never ever get rid of your nerves before you get on stage before 150 people? Sorry for those of you who wanted to be nerve-free before public speaking. If I can leave you with a couple of metaphors relating to nerves, think of your nerves as wild horses. In New South Wales, Victoria, they call them brumbies. In West Australia, we call them wild horses. Think of your nerves as wild horses. They are magnificent beasts. They're fast, they're strong, they're completely out of control. They go anywhere they want to. They don't allow fences or anything to keep them under control. The wind flows through their manes as they run as quick as they can down the hills. Wild horses, that's your nerves. Don't shoot them. Rather, try to harness them, try to tame those wild horses, and they'll take you on the ride of your life. So don't shoot the nerves. Harness them, harness that nervous energy, harness that peak performance energy, and it'll take you on the ride of your life. So that's the first part of the webinar, the role of nerves. They're not going to go away. They put you in your peak performance mode. The sooner you shake hands with your nerves and learn to live with them and learn to speak with them and learn to sing or perform or dance with your nerves, then you can move on and focus on your content, focus on your audience, focus on your nonverbal communication. The second thing, reality distortion. You've probably seen this before and you probably know that both those dotted lines are the same length. Yep. But the top one appears longer because of those triangles facing out, and the bottom one appears shorter because of those triangles facing in. You've probably seen this picture before. Which woman, which lady do you see in that picture? If it's the young lady, you'll see the little nose around there and the chin of the young lady is there. If you see the old lady, you'll see the nose there, and the chin is down here, and this is the mouth of the old lady. So it's called reality distortion. And what I do in my public speaking workshops is I let people know that their reality and the audience's realities are two different things. And what you see is that if you look at your anxiety or your nervousness or your fear of public speaking and you put it on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is really, really high nerves, really high, and of course 1 or 0 is very low, or in fact no nerves, so we've got 0 nerves down here. Most people in my workshops, and just imagine you're in my workshop, there's 15 people, and I say, can you come up the front and speak for 2 minutes, a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your work, and what would you like to learn from me during this one-day workshop? And they speak for 2 minutes. Most people rate themselves as a 7 or 8 on their nervousness scale. Some people go 9, some people go 7, a couple of people even go 10. And I've had people say 11 and 12. I'm off the Richter scale. So that's what I do. I ask people to rate themselves. How anxious are you? How anxious were you? I then go to the audience and I say to the audience, disregard, delete that person's own self-evaluation on the 3 questions I ask them to speak upon. A little bit about themselves, a little bit about their work, what do they want to learn from me today? How nervous did they appear? And universally, I get ratings of 4, the occasional 5, sometimes 3 or 4. So the reality is you see yourself up here and the audience sees you down here. And what that means is you are doing twice as good as you think you are. The audience only sees 50%. Yeah, this is what's happening for you, but the audience is only experiencing this. So if you can let go of your self-assessment of your reality and acknowledge that the audience already sees you looking fairly good, then you can move on. You can move on. And the beauty of this is if you are a 7 or an 8, and we see you as a 4 or a 5, and you're able to bring your nerves down 1 notch, so you're now down to a 7. The same thing happens for the audience. You now drop to a 2 or a 3. So it's not about eliminating nerves. It's about acknowledging them, understanding they're there, and also recognizing that the audience only sees 50% of what's happening for you. And if you want to flip that, that means you're doing twice as good, 200% better than you think you are. Now, please understand that does not mean your pulse rate hasn't gone up to 100. That doesn't mean your voice is not quivering. That doesn't mean your palms haven't gone sweaty and your mind's racing. It doesn't mean that has not happened. That has happened. What it does mean is the audience doesn't know that you've got sweaty palms. They don't hear that quiver in your voice unless they're a really close colleague and they speak with you every day. Occasionally they'll say, oh yes, I notice a little bit of nervousness in your voice. But the outside audience doesn't see what's happening to you at the same level. So that's your anxiety reality check. We distort how bad we've done, how nervous we look. You've got to focus on what the audience sees. And why this is important is because if you think you've done a good job, so you've got rid of your nerves and you've nailed it, and the audience thinks that you've sucked, that you've blew it, that you had nothing in it for the audience, then you've done a really bad job. If you think you've blown it, you've been nervous, you've been fidgetive, you've forgotten some of your key points and the audience loved you, then you've nailed your presentation. So really the anxiety reality check is it's not really about you, it's about how the audience perceives you. So that's your reality check. That's your distortion. Some tips to help you bring your nerves down one notch. Let's start reframing. Let's start looking at your nervousness, your lack of confidence, your fear around public speaking in a different way. I'm just going to pause for a moment and just check there's no questions, no comments. So Kathy, if Ringo Starr gets nervous and vomits before performing a musical, I know he doesn't sing, maybe it's okay to be nervous before you sing. Ringo Starr's an international performer. He's on TV, he's in the limelight. And even today, 40 years later, he still experiences those things. So let's start with some reframes. Pick those which work for you. Not every reframe will work for each of you. The first reframe, get excited. Those of you who read the LinkedIn post that I sent you the link to will have seen this, and it's about the Harvard University research. And it's not just Harvard, it's other research as well. You have a choice of being nervous or you have a choice of being excited. You can choose. Now, my background is biochemistry, microbiology, and medical science. So that is my background. The biochemistry of excitement goes like this. When you are excited, your adrenaline flows. Your blood vessels vasoconstrict. And I know there's some nurses on the webinar. Your blood vessels vasoconstrict. Your palms get a little bit sweaty. Your pulse rate increases because vasoconstriction is when all your pipes, your blood vessels become smaller. So you've got the same blood volume, but you've got less pipes to pump it through. So the heart has to go faster and you feel a hot flush. That's excitement. What happens when you're nervous? It's the same biochemical physiological reaction. I know in the mind it's a completely different mindset, but what I'm saying is the physiology of the body, when you're nervous, your heart rate increases, adrenaline flows, you start to get sweaty palms. So what I'm saying is get excited as opposed to nervous. Choose. You're about to walk on stage, 150 people. Are you excited or are you nervous? Or are you nervous? It is your choice. You're about to get on the world's tallest roller coaster ride. Are you excited or are you nervous? It doesn't really matter because the chemistry, the physiology is going to have the same impact on your body. Choose excitement. And that's what the Harvard research was. They got groups of students to do presentations to large groups. One group of students spent lots of time on relaxing, learning to be calm, doing deep breathing exercises, all of those things. And others were told to don't deal with your nerves, just get really excited, come across excited and just let your nerves go. The people who did the relaxation and the calmness came across as fake, as uninterested, as not connecting with the audience. Those people who were really nervous and got excited, they came across as more authentic, as more genuine, and their presentations had more impact. So it's the nervousness, it's the excitement that gives you that authenticity. So get excited. That's the first reframe. Turn your nerves into excitement. Get rid of public speaking. And the way to do that is to replace public speaking with a conversation. So these two ladies are having a chat one-on-one. All of you, I'm sure, have chats with your colleagues one-on-one. The morning tea room, you're having a chat. That is the same persona that you should take into a boardroom meeting, into a presentation in front of 150 people, into a seminar where you're presenting. So if you're hands in pockets, relaxed, casual sort of person, one-on-one, take that hand in pocket, relaxed, casual person on stage. Because that's really who you are. Now, if people know you and you're relaxed and casual and you have a chat, and then when you get on stage, you stand upright, you put a plum in your mouth and you start to speak differently and plastically and artificially, then people will wonder who is the real you. So what I tell people, stop doing public speaking, have a conversation with everyone in the room one-on-one, all 150 of them. Yeah, just glance around the room, pick someone, speak to them for 1 or 2 seconds, have a chat, move somewhere else in the room, have a chat. Don't do public speaking, do conversations. And the best presenters have that conversational style. They don't even think they're doing a presentation. They get before a group of 250 people, they share their knowledge, their passion, their information, their ideas, their frustrations in a conversational way. Don't do public speaking anymore. If I was to go to a workshop and I do wonderful public speaking, and then you have a cup of tea with me at morning tea, and then you notice that I'm just really quite a normal guy that's not that fancy, and I use a bit of slang, and I say a few ums and ahs, but on stage I'm a completely different person, you're going to wonder who is the real authentic Peter Dew, the one that you're having a cup of coffee with or chatting with over lunch, or the one who you see doing a performance on stage. Public speaking is a little bit of a performance, but it's important that you remain genuine and authentic as opposed to a false performance, as opposed to bringing someone else on stage. Best way to do that, just have a conversation. I call this the Chinese way or the Asian way, and it's about respect. So the Chinese culture, they're very respectful. They bow their heads with their greetings. They look after their elders. They wouldn't want to do anything to waste someone's time. So it's kind of the Chinese way. So when you get on stage in front of 150 people, where is your energy and where's your attention focusing? Are you focusing on yourself? What's happening to you? Gee, my palms are really sweaty. I'm feeling a bit nervous here. What if I muck up? What if I forget my key point? What if the audience doesn't like me? Or are you focusing on the audience? What are their needs? Reading their body language, noticing their nods, noticing their shakes of heads, noticing that maybe they're getting tired and you're losing their interest. So you need to take a break, or you need to change tack, or you need to soften your stance. Really important to be respectful to your audience. So public speaking is not really about you, it's about the audience. If you're nervous, if you're anxious, if you're worried about what people are thinking, you know that you're focusing on yourself. And they say that focus on yourself or nervousness is a state of self. In fact, some people say it's a state of selfishness. In other words, you've got 100% of your energy, 100% of your attention. Just bring that back up. So 100%. If you worry about your nerves, maybe you put 30% of your attention on your nerves, that means you've only got 70% left for the audience. So you're kind of robbing, you're kind of stealing from the audience to focus on you. You need to be 100% focused on the audience. So yes, you'll have nerves. Park your nerves to one side, get on stage, be 100% present, do the best you can for the audience. Public speaking is not about you, it's about the audience. It's about changing people's lives. It's about helping people move to a better place in their life. It's about giving people solutions, ideas, options, choices. So that is reframing. When you focus on yourself, when you get nervous, when you worry, that's your ego state. You need to put your ego, your nerves aside and be 100% present for the audience. Yep. You are not the hero, the audience is the hero. Nerves is self-centered. Nerves is focusing on yourself. So reframe. Number 3, just let go of the nerves and be 100% present for your audience. And reframe 4, the elephant in the room. One of the strategies you can do if you want to is let the audience know that you're nervous. Speak it, mention it. Some people try to hide their nerves. And yes, you pretend to be confident and you use excitement, but don't be afraid to say, guys, thanks for your time today. I'm really pleased to be here and I'm looking forward to sharing some of my knowledge and tips on how to look at post-school options for people with intellectual disabilities. Before I go on, can I just let you know that I don't like public speaking. This makes me quite nervous, as you can probably see. My face goes bright red, but the information I've got, I think you'll find really valuable. You've disclosed. Nobody needs to then worry about their nerves. You don't have to try and hide your nerves. You've let people know, and they can now listen to your content. With public speaking, most people in your audience, so I guess it's fair to say you guys today, the 35 people on the webinar today, you come out of self-interest. So most audiences are selfish. They're there for their self-interest. You're there to learn something. You're not here to cheer me on. You're not here to vote for me. You're not here to pat me on the back. You're here because you want to take something away. So if you give people in your room, in your seminar, 1 or 2 things that they can use in their own life, they're going to like you. You may muck up, you may use some wrong words, you may have some technical difficulties with your webinar, with your PowerPoint slides, you may forget something. Give people something and they're going to love you. So don't be afraid to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Guys, I don't enjoy public speaking. My elephant that I have to announce every time is that I am a person who stutters. And I let the audience know and I share my story and then I go on and people think, wow, if this guy who's struggled with stuttering during his life can now do public speaking, surely I can do this as well. What's your elephant? Disclose it. If that works for you, by all means. Is it a sign of weakness? Well, you need to decide. Job interview? Yeah, I'd say, look, I'm quite nervous. And as a person who stutters, job interviews used to exacerbate my stutter, used to increase my stuttering. So up front, before I answered any questions, I would have to let them know that I don't enjoy job interviews. So please, feel free to use the elephant in the room. Disclose that you're nervous. It's going to pause for a moment. Are there any questions on those reframes? Which one could you use? What are your feelings on disclosing up front that you're nervous to the audience? Yes, I've got a comment. If it's an engineer or a engineering or a technical conference and you mention that you're nervous, then people will maybe think less of you. Maybe, but if you give really good content, if you describe some new principles or some research findings that are absolutely amazing, then I don't think that your nerves will be held against you. Some of you may know about Professor Barry Marshall here in Perth, Nobel Prize winner for medicine, found out the bacteria that cause peptic ulcers. He spent 8 years trying to convince the world that he knew what caused peptic ulcers, and he got rejected and rejected, and he was really nervous presenter, and some of those nerves, kind of went against him, but he persevered, and so now he's one of the most respected researchers in medical science, Nobel Prize winner for medicine, nervous as a presenter. Someone likes to get excited, and it is self-energizing. So in some ways, the getting excited, does build the energy for the presentation. If you are really calm, and as the Harvard research showed, so you're now free of nerves, you're going to come across as a little bit flat. Just another thing you can do as well from a biochemical point of view, smile. So when you smile, you release endorphins and serotonin. They're the happy chemicals. They're the energizing chemicals. When you worry and when you stress, you release oxytocin. And that's the chemicals that pull you down a little bit. And cortisol, not oxytocin, sorry, cortisol. So, yeah, smile. So thanks, Kathy. Yes, get excited. Get enthusiastic. Choose. It's your choice. All right. No other questions? No other comments? You need to do more speaking. If you want to become more confident, you want to control nerves, you need to do more speaking. Unfortunately, confident and effective public speaking is not an occasional skill. It's an everyday skill. It's something you need to work on. The analogy or the metaphor I use with public speaking is like learning to ride a bike. And you work and you train and you learn to ride a bike, and then you can ride for the rest of your life. Yep, I haven't ridden a bike for 5 years. I can get back on a bike and ride today. You can't do that with public speaking. So if I stretch the bike riding analogy further, it's like learning to ride a bike and then competing in a road race between Perth and Albany, Bendigo and Melbourne, Sydney and Wollongong. What would you do to get ready for that road race? You would train. You'd train once or twice a week. You would ride on the weekend. You'd ride after work. You'd do some distances. You now compete in that race and you get a really good time. You raise lots of money for the charity. You come in the top 10. Great job. You now don't ride like me for 6 months. Then all of a sudden you're asked to go on another bike race to raise money for charity. Would you be able to do as well and get the same position or the same time as you did without riding for 6 months? And the answer is no. So if you don't keep the public speaking going, then you will lose that ability to control your nerves. It's an ongoing skill. So this webinar today may be for some of you the start of your journey. It's not the finish, it's not the end, it's not the answer. It should only be the beginning. And with my workshops and with the webinars, it's not what happens today, what you learn from me today. It's what you do tomorrow, next week, the week after. So you need to do more public speaking. You need to find a way, you need to step up. Anthony Robbins said that repetition is the mother of skill. Repetition is the mother of skill. You train for an event, you train for a bike ride. If If you're on a weight loss program or a fitness program, if you lose your 10 kilos and then you go back to what you did before, then you're not going to keep fit and healthy. So how can you do more speaking? How can you immerse yourself in more public speaking? And really it's up to you. And I'll ask for some comments. Volunteer to chair more meetings. Maybe at your workplace you've got weekly meetings. Volunteer to chair the meetings. If you don't chair the meetings, bring something along to present. But when you present, stand up and put something on a whiteboard, something on a flip chart. Stand up for 2 minutes, 3 minutes and present something quirky, something interesting, something challenging. Maybe the Canadians are doing something interesting in social housing, or maybe in cancer support, they've got a new model. Just stand up. As soon as you stand up, you're doing a mini presentation. A lot of you work for not-for-profit organisations. You can do community presentations. I've done some workshops for the Heart Foundation in Western Australia, and they have a consumer group that go out and do speaking, volunteer speaking to organisations that want to know about heart health and the Heart Foundation. Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, and Apex clubs always want guest speakers, volunteer to speak. Join a public speaking club, Toastmasters, Rostrum, Penguin Club, Probus. Join a club where you're speaking more often. The idea is to get on your feet once a week, not once every 6 months. You need to do more speaking. What are some other things that you can do that you're not doing at the moment that would require you to stand up and speak? Yes, in the mining sector, they have toolbox meetings and sometimes pre-start. So bring something to your health and safety pre-start. And that's a daily event. So at least once a week, you could bring something, an issue, and stand up and present it to your colleagues on an idea or an issue from a health and safety perspective. Lunchtime meetings, yes, within hospitals, they sometimes have lunchtime meetings. Maybe you could agree to present something. What I'm asking you is how are you going to get on your feet once a week as opposed to once in a blue moon? What other ideas do you have for speaking more frequently? How can you create speaking opportunities? So volunteer to do community education, yep. Okay, you need to do more public speaking. If you want to be confident, you want to control nerves, you need to do more of it. The only way to get rid of your fear of doing something is to go out and do it. And of course, this quote comes from Dr. Susan Jeffers, who wrote the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. By the way, I'm licensed to run Feel the Fear workshops. It just goes hand in hand with public speaking. Susan Jeffers is not talking about public speaking. It just so happens that public speaking is mankind's #1 fear. So I use her work quite often in my workshops. But I do run the generic, not public speaking, the generic Feel the Fear workshops under license to Susan Jeffers anywhere in Australia. So Susan says the only way to get rid of fear of doing something is to go and do it. So the only way to get rid of your fear of public speaking is to go out and do public speaking. The only way to become more confident and less nervous around public speaking is to go out and do more of it. So Kathy, the only way to become more confident in your singing is to sing more. How many recitals do you do? How many gigs do you do per week or per month? Sometimes those things that we fear, if they're important to us, we need to do them. I think I need to put this into context. I'm talking about facing the fears that are holding you back in your career. So leadership, persuasion, being team player, all of that's around communication skills, having those difficult conversations, performance discussions, educating people, that's all around public speaking. I have a fear of jumping out of an aeroplane with a parachute. I have a fear of jumping off a bridge with a lacky band around my ankles. I have a fear of swimming with sharks. In fact, I'm not going to do any of those things because they don't hold me back. My fear of public speaking held me back for so long. And finally, expand your comfort zone. You need to take some risks. So this little goldfish in his current world, a little bit turbid, a little bit small, a little bit confined, a little bit dirty, it's going to this bright new world of leadership, this bright new world of standing up confidently and sharing your thoughts, putting a new idea forward, even though you know it's going to be shouted down from your audience possibly, but you know that it needs to be said. Maybe you're advocating on behalf of people with disabilities about something that's not right. Brave new world. So you need to expand your comfort zone. Whoops. So this comes from Susan Jeffers also. It's about taking a risk that gets you closer to your goal. Once you've done that first risk 5 times, 6 times, take another risk. And you start to get comfortable, take another risk. Psychologists also call this desensitization. Have a fear of heights and you want to go and climb the Eiffel Tower in France in 6 months' time. I wouldn't leave that as my first attempt to deal with a morbid fear of heights. I would want to do a couple of 2-story buildings over a period of time, then maybe a 5-story building, climb one of the towers in Kings Park, do that a few times, and maybe go up one of the taller buildings in Perth before I try the Eiffel Tower. With public speaking, if you're really nervous, start off with maybe 5 people. Speak to 5 people. Maybe join a Toastmasters club. Toastmasters will have 15 to 20 people in a club, and it's safe. You can have a brain drain. You can forget what you're speaking about. It doesn't matter. Toastmasters is unconditional support. Maybe once you're comfortable in that Toastmasters, be a guest speaker at another club and walk into a group of strangers. Once you've done this, then agree to present at a state conference. Then you might do a national conference. A few years ago, I had a nurse from one of the big hospitals in Australia, and they came to one of my workshops and said, Peter, I hate public speaking. It causes me great stress. I sweat, my mind goes blank. In fact, the last time I tried to present last year, I fainted and they had to splash water on my face and someone else had to come and finish my presentation to my team. Can you help me? I'm presenting at a national conference next week in front of 2,000 people. Don't do that to yourself. I don't think that you should go from a position of absolute morbid fear and your first presentation is a national conference. I don't think that's the right way to deal with a fear or nervousness around public speaking. Sometimes we call this dive in at the deep end, sink or swim training. For public speaking, I would rather you invest some time, get comfortable in front of 5 people at a team meeting, some friends or colleagues where you stand up and say, look, can I just give you the opening and the conclusion of my presentation? Go to a Toastmasters club for 6 to 12 months, then start doing state conferences and other seminars, then go and do your national or your international conference. Expand your comfort zone gradually, one step at a time would be the way that I would do it. Are there any questions or comments? So, in summary, in fact, I'll come back to the summary in a moment. Those of you who really want to work on your public speaking skills, on your Confidence 2016, then I am running a 12-month mentoring program. And each month I'm going to run a 1-hour webinar. I'm going to support you via email and an open Facebook group. The topics are going to be very relevant And let me just see if I can switch to the topics. Nope, I'll go back to the webinar. So range of topics, from how to present without notes, how to connect and build rapport with your audience, what do you do with your nonverbal communication, how to use your voice effectively, how to use story, the power of stories. And that's another way of being more confident. When you tell your story, it's more natural and the conversational style flows. You can find the information on my website, so I don't want to spend much time on that. So understanding the role of nerves. They're probably not going to go away. In fact, they put you in that peak performance mode. Ringo Starr has nerves, Sally Pearson has nerves, Peter Dew has nerves. So move on, kind of get over yourself and do what you need to do. Share your passion, your message, do your education, apply for promotions with your nerves. Your reality distortion, because what's happening for you, the audience is not seeing it. You're exacerbating everything. You're overanalyzing it. You're thinking you're doing a bad job where the audience probably thinks you're doing a pretty good job. Use one of the reframes. Don't do nerves, do excitement. Don't do public speaking, do conversations. Be respectful. If you focus on you and your nerves, you're robbing from the audience. Be 100% present for the audience. Feel free to use the elephant in the room. Let people know I don't like public speaking, but I've got 2 or 3 things I want to share with you. Do more speaking. It's not an occasional skill. And even when you've nailed it, so you've done that expand your comfort zone and you work up and you've done your state conference and you've done a really good job and you think, wow, this public speaking is not so bad after all, and you wait for 12 months and you get asked for the following year to do the conference and you've done no speaking for 12 months. And then you wonder why the nerves come back and you worry and it becomes a stressful situation unnecessarily. Keep working at that public speaking. It's not an occasional skill, but do it in a way where you expand your comfort zone. Do it in a way that expands your comfort zone. Mentoring program, workshops in Perth, starting up in February. Those of you who may want to fast track, 1-day workshops, winning presentation skills, how to be more assertive in the workplace, thinking and speaking off the cuff. I love this workshop. It's one of my favorite workshops and most sold. This is off the cuff speaking. Job interviews, Q&A. Someone asks you a question and those difficult conversations. Workshops in Bunbury, a couple of workshops in Karratha. We've got some workshops in Melbourne, 18th and 19th of March. They're not on the website yet. They'll be up in the next few days. So if I can be of any further assistance to you, feel free to contact me via email. You can attend one of the workshops. Follow me on Facebook or feel free to connect to the mentoring program, monthly or an annual fee. Are there any last questions before I end the webinar? And I will be ending the webinar 5 minutes early. Any last questions? Thanks, Belinda. Thank you for your kind comments. Thanks, guys. Further questions, feel free to send me via email. Thanks, Catherine, and we'll see you later.